Welcome to Open Arms, an honest conversation about firearms. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Brian Lockerman. One thing that's really been really exciting for the Open Arms team is we get to meet a lot of police officers, firefighters, military, you name it. Just hearing their stories and talking to them has been just such an experience for us, and really we're learning a lot too as well. And today on my show, I have Mike McMahon, a former LAPD officer. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you for your service for all those years, too.
Thanks.
That's fantastic. Now, a couple things I want to talk to you about before we get going here. When you started your law enforcement career, obviously you had to go through a lot of firearm training. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, do they really focus on a lot of safety as well when they're doing that for the police officers?
Oh, absolutely. You know, coming on, I was 31 years old when I came on, and I had never held a firearm.
Really?
I grew up on the East Coast, and it was very difficult to get a firearm license, a CCW back there. So I never had an inclination to go shoot guns as a young man. So it wasn't until I entered the academy where I actually fired my first round. But yeah, it's really ingrained. You got your 4 basic safety rules, and it's sort of becomes second nature to you. It's all muscle memory that you build, and you're only as good as your last training. You revert to, what is it they say? I think 10% of what you know really is what helps you along.
Exactly. Now, when you didn't just stop there, they had, was it continuous training as you went in your career?
Absolutely. LAPD obviously is the tip of the spear in American policing, in my opinion. And so officers on duty, we qualify once a month, right? You go through a combat range, and then over the course of my 14 and a half plus years, I was also honored to be part of the LAPD rifle cadre.
Oh wow!
To where you carry, the ancient relic. I think I had a 1971 Army surplus M16A1.
Really?
That I carried for about
10
way. Years. Yeah. And so that's one of the more difficult courses that you have to, or one of the more difficult schools that you have to go through during your tenure as an LAPD officer in order to get into that rifle cadre.
Very interesting. So then not all officers will carry a rifle unless you go through the training. Is that what it is?
Correct. And it's a very difficult school to get into.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I never knew that, because every once in a while I do see sheriffs or police officers with a rifle in the rack. Even some motorcycle cops too. You'll see the rifle on the side. So they have to really go through an extensive training to be able to carry that.
Yes, an extensive training with constant retraining throughout the course of the year.
Which is great. And I always emphasize that. That's why, the show Open Arms, we stress that. One training class is not going to do it. You got to keep coming back. You got to keep your chops fresh. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We just don't want accidents. Okay, here's one that might hit home for you a little bit. I've spoke to a lot of, get my sheriff buddies, LAPD officers, firefighters. One of the things that they said is one of the worst calls they ever have to go on is when there's a careless accident with a firearm in a home. Have you ever experienced that?
I've been blessed not to. I've seen some pretty graphic, pretty things that would make you throw up.
I'm sure.
But a careless, negligent discharge within the home, I have had the great fortune never to have.
Yeah, and it's not pleasant. According to every officer I talk to, they say it's not a pleasant experience. They hate it. Seeing maybe a child or a loved one, that accidentally discharged a firearm because they're careless and they didn't have training, and all that came that started building up with me, and I said I have to do something about this. And when I put this project together, not only the show but this podcast, it's finally working. And even without us being on the air right now with the show, I'm getting some just amazing emails from people that are actually listening to what we are preaching, and they're actually doing something about it. And that right there makes a difference, because we want to just stop the careless injuries. And in that way, we feel like if we save one life, we did our job.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, okay. So how many years on the force?
I ended at 14 and a half.
14 and a half. Okay. Why'd you end at 14 and a half?
Well, I was one of the very one of the very first officers to sort of openly question the city of Los Angeles's vaccine mandate
Mm.
on their employees. And in doing so, I drew the ire of the department and the city, and I was ultimately relieved of duty on November 3rd of 2021 when they presented me with a 48-hour notice, basically a notice to comply.
Really?
And in that notice, they wanted to deduct $600 a month from my paycheck in order to pay for PCR testing at the time. Now, I knew very early on, now I was obviously one of the smartest people in the room, that the PCR test at that time had lost its emergency use authorization. So therefore, they said it was returning, false positives of about 95, 99% at the time. And so I said, there's no way I'm going to allow you to, number one, illegally withdraw money from my paycheck because it goes against the California Labor Code under Section 2802, that if you're going to require me to do something as a condition of my employment, you can't force me to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so I said, no, this is an illegal action. You can't force me to do it. And I just declined it. I said, I'm not going to acquiesce to these mandates. And as a result, 48 hours later, I was forced to turn in my duty weapon and my badge, and a month later, I was put on trial by the LAPD
You gotta be kidding.
for 7 months for failure to follow the order of a chief.
Oh man. Let me ask you this: did you feel like you were really alone in this battle? Were other officers too standing with you?
Well, prior to my being relieved of duty, I was a very vocal opponent to this vaccine mandate, or the forthcoming vaccine mandate within the city, because the union, the labor unions, the city were all sort of conspiring with each other, but they never put it to a vote of any of the memberships of any unions. It wasn't part of the contract that I had signed up for, and if you're going to unilaterally change my contract, you need to put it to a vote.
Yeah.
Is what I believed in, right? So I started this organization called Roll Call for Freedom. It was myself, 2 other police officers, and one of their wives. And we were basically billing ourselves as we weren't anti-vaccine. What we were is anti-mandate. Because very early on, you had doctors that were being silenced, like Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Malone. And, Dr. Malone had always said, with risk, there must be choice.
Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly subscribe to that. I see myself as a sovereign man. My rights are imbued in me from God, not from government.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how that's how we approached Roll Call for Freedom. We were just the anti-mandate coalition speaking out against this. And again, I made enemies because of it.
I'm sure.
We had some really great groups along with us. Siaka Massaquoi, who you've had on your show prior.
Yeah.
He and his group, Hollywood for Freedom. We had the firefighters alongside with us.
Nice.
And we had a couple hundred other LAPD members. And then we ended up taking City of Los Angeles employees. And we sued the federal government over the vaccine mandate, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We lost. But it was a really big coming together, because at that time, everybody was sort of scrambling. Well, what do I do? I feel so alone, right? And we were organizing, coming together, coalescing, right? As like, you are not crazy. This is not insanity. We are protecting our God-given rights, and of course, what the Constitution says, you're supposed to be able to allow to voice your grievances against the government.
That is true.
Right? The Second Amendment is there to protect the First Amendment.
Exactly.
Right? And these are the 2 greatest paragraphs ever written of any other document.
You're right about that.
The first and the second.
Amen on that. That's for sure.
Above everything else.
Yep. Well, I really, really do respect what you've done. Now, is that organization still together?
We are.
Okay. One more time. What was it called?
It's Roll Call.
Roll Call.
The number 4.
The number 4.
Freedom.
And can people find you somewhere out there?
We're Instagram.
Instagram.
Twitter. We've got a website as well, rollcallforfreedom.com.
Okay.
And we're out there right now, and everything has sort of died down at this point because the apathy is the flavor of the month right now.
Hmm.
Everybody's seemingly they've been allowed to go back to their jobs. The masking is done.
Yeah.
The digital IDs
But we don't want
are on
that
the
to come
back.
back. So stuff like
We
that,
don't.
and people out there, seriously, look him up and look this website up, because you know what? Support organizations like this, and this keeps us stronger every day. I do appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah,
Fantastic
yeah,
work.
yeah. Because a lot of people don't understand that. The city of Los Angeles is pretty much the only major metropolitan city left in the country. I think San Francisco might be the other that still has an employee vaccine mandate. Even though everybody's gone back to work, there is still a vaccine mandate in effect currently within the city of Los Angeles, and we need to get rid of that.
That's unbelievable. Okay, here you go. You're a dedicated LAPD officer. They kick you out, and it's like the force is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. It seems. Is that are you seeing that over the years that our law enforcement is just dwindling and there's more crime? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I was an officer of the year within the LAPD.
Look at that.
I was a highly decorated officer, and one of the things that bothered me the most is that if they could do that to someone who gives 110% to the department for 14 and a half years of their lives, they'll do it to anyone. I was 100% gung ho.
And these are
being a police
these.
officer.
You're the guys we need,
Right.
You know?
And what they're doing, Brian, is they're getting rid of the critical thinking officers and replacing them with someone who just wants a paycheck every 2 weeks. and much like being a soldier, being a gunsmith, or a firearms expert, you look at this as being a calling, right? You have this something inside of you that you can't teach, right? And police officers these days, most of them don't have that any longer, because we've been painted with this big brush stroke so much that we're some sort of ist, or we subscribe to some sort of ism. And the good officers or officer candidates are just saying, well, why would I want to do that right now? And they're walking away to other career fields. So you're getting the people that just want the paychecks every 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And especially within the city of Los Angeles and under current Mayor Bass, she's a communist sympathizer, as she stated before. Traveled to Cuba many times in her past, and she espoused about the Castro regime. But she's brought this ideology into the city. Mind you, and we also have, I think, we have 3 Democrat socialists currently sitting on the city council, one of the most corrupt city councils in all of America. But Mayor Bass has brought forth these metrics, the 24 metrics of how she envisions the LAPD to be in the future, and a lot of that is going to be to the detriment of the city of Los Angeles, the residents, the taxpayers. It's going to be to the detriment, because the applicant pool is just not there.
It's unreal.
So they're going to get rid of things, like former arrests for narcotics or domestic violence. They're going to look past that. They're going to get rid of the polygraph exam, things of that nature. So you're going to see possibly more incidents like we've seen with the Memphis 5 and the death of Tyree Nichols earlier this year.
Yeah.
You know?
And also I heard that isn't LA now a sanctuary city?
Oh, it's been a sanctuary city for forever.
Yeah. So that's what this is good then.
Yeah.
Sanctuary city. Let's get rid of good guys like you and just let them run the show, right?
It's incredible what's happening.
It burns me up. My blood boils when I hear this stuff, especially a guy like you. Officer of the year. 110%. Yeah, you know what? You're fired. You won't go by our mandates. See you bye. That burns me.
Right.
Hearing stuff like that. There's no call for it. There's no reason for it.
Well, when you're an officer who's lived his life according to the core principles of what the LAPD teaches you, and to be fired because you followed those, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you can't teach, you can't talk about the intangibles that make you you.
Yeah.
Right? To somebody that doesn't understand honor, principle, things of that nature, morality, and the LAPD that used to be their pillars. They used to be in their pillars, but now they're saying, well, you didn't want to go along with the program. Have a good night. Don't let the door hit you with God split you.
Unbelievable. So now, what's for the future for Mike?
It's I haven't had any employment since I've been terminated.
Really?
Yeah, I'm out there. I'm looking for jobs. I still have a great passion for policing. So, I'm trying to hopefully latch on with the department
Well,
here in Southern California.
question. So, could you maybe go to the Ventura County Sheriff's and maybe get a job with them or something like that? Can you go to other, areas like that?
Yeah, yeah, I could.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just hasn't worked out yet.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just maybe I'm too political or it just wasn't meant to be. I don't know. But I'm still actively looking for employment in law enforcement. It is
Okay.
it
Well,
is the greatest love of my life.
I might be able to help you a little door opening in Ventura County. If we'll talk about it
Sure.
after the show. I'll get an idea for you.
Yeah.
But everything you have done so far to date, Mike, I really do appreciate. I appreciate what you're doing. I mean, standing up like that took courage. That did.
Yeah.
And, you're a man of courage, and that's what it takes. And that's the kind of guys we need on our police force.
We do.
You know what I mean?
We do.
Holy.
I mean, with masculinity being, under the microscope now, everything's a toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
People don't really understand that, being a dad is not toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Being a dad who speaks up for his children is labeled as domestic terrorism these
Yeah,
days.
exactly.
And when I initially started speaking out and when I formed Roll Call for Freedom, the quote that I used to remember always was the Reverend Graham used to say, "When a brave man stands, it strengthens the spines of others."
Mm-hmm.
And that was always an important quote to me. I even used it when I ran for the California State Assembly in 2022.
Oh, you did?
I did.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, after the writing was on the wall when I was on trial.
Okay.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It came out in my trial that I was going to be made an example of. I had a whistleblower in my trial, believe it or not.
Kidding me.
And I was going to be made an example of within the department, and that I would 100% be terminated. So knowing that, I was like, well, I still have this great passion to serve, right? And I think that's important. Not a lot of people have that any longer.
I could see it in you, dude. I could see you're passionate about this. It's amazing.
I'm stupid with passion.
Well, that's good. That's great.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But so I was thinking to myself, like, how can I further serve if I can't be a police officer any longer? And so I decided, with like 4 days left, I decided to pull papers for the California State Assembly in the 41st District. And, I ran initially for the primary as a write-in candidate. I ended up getting the second most write-in votes in the state.
Oh, wow.
To put me onto the ballot in November. And I campaigned my butt off from March of 22 up until November of 22, and I ended up with about 70,000 votes across across 2 counties, which was Los Angeles and San Bernardino. It's not bad for a first-time candidate.
No, really, I know it.
By all accounts, I was told that I won the in-person voting on election day, and it wasn't until that first harvested ballots in LA County was opened is when I started to lose the race.
There you go. Right.
It was close for a minute, but
hey, good job. Do you think you might do any of that in the future? Running?
I've got to get my career back on track.
Okay.
But it was an exciting opportunity that I don't regret. Brian, I don't regret any decisions that I've made since the inception of this pandemic.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I don't regret any decisions I've ever made. Because that's how you learn.
There you go.
You always fall forward, right?
Yep. Now, do you have Instagram or whatever like that so people can find you as well?
Yeah. I mean, I run the Roll Call for Freedom Instagram.
Okay.
But my other Instagram handle is I believe it's Mike McMahon _41 on Instagram.
Yeah, again, I encourage everyone to seriously go look him up and actually, support what he's doing. It's fantastic. I mean, I love it, Mike, what you're doing. You really, you are the guys who make a difference for us. You really do. You stepped up to the plate. You jeopardized your career. You jeopardized a lot of things, but you know what? You stood your ground, and I do respect that.
Yeah, if you stay quiet in times of conflict, the only thing you're doing is starting a war within yourself.
That's true.
And I, for a lot of us in this fight in the very beginning, we all had young children, and for me especially, I have 2 young children. I have two sons, one that just turned 8 the other day, and one that's will be 10 this year. And I needed them to know that in this time of moral crisis, right, in this upheaval in this world,
Hmm.
that their dad did everything that he possibly could to ensure a future for them.
That's
You know,
fantastic. That is great. Now, one of the other things we do stress on our show is family values.
hmm
And it sounds like me that you're a family man and you take that serious.
oh, it's the best thing. It's the best job I've ever had in my life.
Exactly. And that's what I think we're losing a lot of, especially in this area that we live in.
Yeah.
I just see more and more parents, they have kids, then just whatever, they don't listen to them, they don't talk to them, they don't have family dinners with them. They just here's your iPad, here's your cell phone, just do your thing, whatever. And we got to start changing that, because that's why we're getting more and more. This is my opinion, but I think we're getting more and more mental cases because of that. Because kids don't have the opportunity to talk to their parents. No one sits down for a family dinner anymore. They don't come home from school. Mom, Dad, in school today, I did this, I did that. They don't have that. And I think we have to try to start, rekindling that and bringing that back. I think it'll make a difference.
Sure. I agree with you. I think it's especially difficult in these times because there's no longer the defined roles of a parent. It used to
Exactly.
be dad went to work,
Mm-hmm.
sacrificed, the glimmer in the child's eye, whereas mom would stay home and she would be responsible for the rearing of the children,
Yeah,
and the dad would come home, do the thing. We don't have that anymore. We live in California where both parents need to work,
that's
and
true.
sometimes they're left with grandmas, or they're sent off to public schools where they're to put it plainly, they're indoctrinated by these woke leftists,
I know it.
and they're taught, a nation taught to hate itself will never stand up to protect it when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're finding with both boys and girls in the schools, is that they hate our country.
I
They're,
know.
they're being taught
It's
that
ridiculous.
our freedoms are selfish,
Mm-hmm.
and in turn, this is what we're raising.
See, and I know, and you're right about that. But I still think, even though two parents work, they should still set a time aside when they come home to sit down with their child and talk to them about how their day went in school. And if the parents, hear their child talking about, oh yeah, teachers saying, we shouldn't even really be worrying about the amendments and that, then the parent better be like, okay, then we have to have a talk with it with the counselors in school about this or something like that. You know what I mean? It just all starts somewhere. And again, if you just let it go and let these teachers, like you said, teach these kids what they're teaching today, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's really nothing to follow up on with that. It is 100% factual what you said. Our children are being taught one thing,
Yeah.
right? And it gets back to like Orwell's 1984, where, truth is deemed a lie and lie becomes truth. That they're rewriting history to fit the current narrative.
Exactly.
They don't teach cursive in school any longer. So that means that our children can't read the Constitution as it was originally written. These small things that
Uh-huh.
they're removing from our school system
Yep.
has a greater lasting effect when our children can't read what our Constitution was built on.
I know it.
I think next week I think is the 235th anniversary of the signing of our Constitution, right?
Wow.
When New Hampshire became the 9th state in the Union to ratify the Constitution of the United States. That's next week. Most people don't know that.
Huh.
This has been a 247-year journey
Yeah.
into self-governance that most people don't have any idea what it truly means.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, when I went to school, Pledge of Allegiance every morning. What's wrong with that? Hey, look, if you're a kid, you don't want to do it, sit down. Let everybody else do it. Whatever. I mean, the things that it just pulled out of our schools just it just bugs me.
Yeah, I mean that was blind. That was blind allegiance back in the day when you didn't really know what you were doing. It was just something that you did. Kids have the power of the Library of Alexandria in their back pocket most of these days, and they're too dumb to start looking up what it really means to this flag that's behind you, that's in front of me.
Yeah.
What does it truly stand
Yeah.
for?
Yep, yep.
We've been, I don't want to talk bad about our current administration or anything like that, but a lot of people are coming about and they're saying, well, wait a minute, we were led into this for the wrong reason. We were led into this. But you can still have pride in your country. So many better people than I have died for the freedoms that we take for granted.
100%.
And if
You're
you
right
take
about
for,
that.
and if at any point you take for granted what you have, they will take it away from you.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know?
It kind of affected me in a way. And how weird this might sound, since the Pledge of Allegiance and all this stuff, and kind of brushed away, pulled away. I don't really hear that much for years. I haven't really heard anything like that. Then we start going to these events for Open Arms that our team were doing, speaking things. The first event we did a presentation for, they opened up with the Pledge of Allegiance. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
I haven't heard this in years, and there's people are doing it. They're still doing it.
It feels good.
It did.
Right? It feels good to say it.
I felt so good looking around at everybody in the crowd doing this, and I'm like, oh my God, where has that been?
Right.
Yeah. It was like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
We're still there.
The things that I have done in the last 3 years have almost rekindled, so to speak, how I feel inside here, right? Because in when I raised my right hand in 2000 and I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States and to the Constitution of California, I meant it. An oath doesn't stop when the officer or the soldier clocks out at 5 p.m., right? This is who you are. This is who you signed up to be. Once you're a cop, once you're a soldier, a Marine, a guardsman, that is who you are.
Yes.
Right? And I take these oaths of office very seriously. And it feels good, when I was running for office, when I was attending these Republican federated women's clubs and things of that nature. They start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I felt myself, I remember, like, I hadn't said it in a long time because it's like I have no opportunity really.
Yeah.
But once you start saying it, I noticed my voice was getting bigger, right? I was leading it.
Nice.
I was getting, I pledge allegiance.
Yeah.
And I do.
There you go.
And unless we start getting more involved in our local elections, our state elections, our federal elections, we are going to lose this constitutional republic that we've had for the last 247 years.
You're right about that, Mike. Well, Mike, it's been a real pleasure having you on. We could sit here and talk for days. I swear to God, you're the type of guy I can just I have a conversation with the entire day. What I like to do, I'm going to see about possibly helping you in a situation here. If everything works out, I'd like to have you come back on the show and talk about it.
Sure.
It'd be kind of a cool little experience.
Yeah.
And anytime else you want to come back on it and speak your mind about something, feel free to give me a call and come on, because you've been amazing, Mike.
Great.
I really appreciate it. And last time again, give me one more time the website.
It's a Roll Call.
Roll Call.
ROLL.
Okay.
CALL, which is named after our, where we get our briefings in the morning.
Gotcha.
Roll Call, the number 4, freedom.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mike,
thank you very much.
You are amazing.
Thanks.
You're the type of person I respect. I really do.
Thank you. And a happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Yes. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, everyone.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. That's our show. You can find us on Instagram at openarms.tv. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, send us a comment, see what you think about this show. Maybe you want to be on my show. Comment, let us know. And until next time, always remember safety, family, and the Second Amendment. Have a good day.